Have you ever woken up with that really profound, unsettling feeling that you are simply not living your own life?
Mm,
We don't mean living someone else's life, that's a whole other journey.
right.
We mean feeling fundamentally disconnected from your own essence, from the life you just intuitively know you are meant to embody.
It is the feeling of being an actor who has walked onto the stage and realized with this sudden sinking clarity that the script they're holding, the script they are performing, was never written by them.
Exactly.
Day after day, you step into the light, you recite the same lines, you make the same predictable movements, and the exhaustion, it isn't from the effort, it's from the performance itself.
The rhythm of life should be dynamic, but instead it becomes this crushing, inescapable loop. Morning, work, evening, sleep,
And then morning again.
and then morning again, restarting the whole cycle. We watch the days, the weeks, the years just blur into one another.
Yeah.
And somewhere, deep inside, there's that quiet whisper, that thing we have to address. This is not it. I didn't come here for this.
And what's particularly complex about this frustration is that we try to solve it externally, with force.
Yes.
We want to do something about it. But because the boundary of this cycle is invisible, every attempt to step out, it just fails.
Yeah.
And the result is this repeating pattern of striving and, well, disappointment.
We see the common attempts all the time, don't we? We change jobs.
Mm-hmm.
We're desperate for a new environment, believing the tension is in the corporate structure or the commute, but the internal feeling of disconnect, it stays exactly the same. It just wears a new uniform.
Or we change cities.
Right. Hoping distance will give us a fresh start.
But nothing shifts inside. We start new relationships, maybe hoping a new partner will complete the picture.
And the exact same arguments, the same insecurities, the same emotional patterns just repeat themselves, but with a new face sitting across the table.
And this repetitive failure, this continuous loop of trying and returning to the starting point,
Yeah.
eventually it leads to the truly dangerous thought.
The resignation.
The resignation, yes. That moment when we consider the possibility, maybe this is just life. Maybe everyone lives like this.
And that thought, that internal agreement,
Yeah,
it almost seals the program, doesn't it? It locks the cycle.
it does. But the truth, the core knowledge revealed by those who have dared to look deeper, is that no, not everyone lives this way. We can see them. They move through the world in a fundamentally different way.
How do they move differently? What is it we can observe?
Well, if you look closely at these individuals, they don't rush. They don't seem strained or stressed by the constant demands of external life.
There's a spaciousness to them.
An inner spaciousness, exactly.
Yeah.
They are fundamentally present in every conversation and every simple action. And what is most remarkable about them is that life seems to flow toward them.
As opposed to them pushing against it.
Precisely. Opportunities and solutions seem to arrive, rather than them constantly needing to push uphill against this invisible resistance.
So, if they move differently, what is the core knowledge that sets them apart? What are they seeing that the rest of us are missing while we're so busy following that repeating script?
The ancients, regardless of the continent or the culture, they all described this phenomenon with remarkable consistency. They called it the wheel of samsara, the endless cycle, the continuous repetition of experience which traps consciousness.
And they understood that most people live life after life entirely unaware that an exit even exists because the repetitions are so subtle and pervasive.
They are. And what's truly fascinating is how modern thinkers, while using vastly different language, are describing the identical mechanism.
You mean things like quantum physics?
Exactly. They speak of choosing reality, of navigating branches of probability, of the multivariate world. They use this new language to explain what the initiates understood through intense inner work. Different words, yes, but the core insight is identical. Your reality is being reassembled daily based on a pre-existing template.
So the essential knowledge we want to share here on Awakening Spirit today is really this. You are, right now, stuck inside a program.
A script that repeats itself again and again. And the truly difficult part is that you don't notice the repetitions until a lot of time has passed. Every time a new external change happens, a new job, a new partner, you think, okay, now everything will change.
That a month passes, a year passes, 5 years pass. And while the decorations are different, a new car, a different house, you find yourself dealing with the same internal tension.
The same feeling of emptiness.
The same fundamental relationship issue that you were so sure you had solved years ago.
That repetition is the absolute signature of the invisible program. It's written deep into your subconscious architecture. It's embedded in your habitual thoughts, encoded in your emotional reactions. and it dictates the very way your energy moves.
And you genuinely believe you're making free decisions.
You do, but the program is making them for you over and over, leading invariably back to the same outcomes. You're not truly living, you are replaying a recording. And the sound quality is degrading with every single loop.
But the good news, the reason we're doing this deep dive into what feels like a trap, is that there is a way to stop this recording.
A way to interrupt the cycle.
To rewrite the script entirely and exit the circle. This isn't theoretical knowledge, is it? It was a practical mechanism known to the initiates.
That's right. Those who understood the deep structural weaving of reality. We speak of the priestesses of ancient temples, the alchemists, the masters of inner work. They knew that the power lay not in external force or massive physical changes,
But in a precise internal alignment.
a precise internal alignment. They knew you could consciously choose a different script, step onto a different branch of probability, and take manual control of what seemed uncontrollable.
And our mission today is to show you this mechanism. We're not talking about belief or philosophy here. We're revealing a tangible, energetic mechanism. We want to show you exactly why you are stuck and what must be done internally to break free.
And crucially, this doesn't require abandoning your current life or spending years in seclusion. The shift can begin right here, today, in your ordinary, everyday life.
But there is a warning we have to offer, isn't there?
We must, and we should deliver it with a measured pace. Once you truly see this mechanism, once you understand how the wheel turns and how the script is loaded daily, you will not be able to unsee it.
Pretending you don't know becomes an impossible luxury.
You lose the excuse of ignorance.
So are you ready to see the invisible mechanism that generates your daily reality? Are you ready to face the fact that you might just be replaying a recording? If so, settle in, listen carefully, because every word that follows is designed to introduce you to the mechanics of freedom.
Let's begin with the diagnosis then. Let's deepen this concept of samsara. In the original traditions, samsara is the wheel of rebirth, this endless cycle spanning lifetimes.
Right.
But we have to view it today not as some abstract spirituality reserved for the distant future, but as a precise description of how most people live their waking lives right now.
The repetition is the key.
The repetition is the key indicator.
At daily repetition, it's what feels so insidious. You wake up, and immediately the same thoughts that were there yesterday start filtering through your consciousness.
The same emotional tone. Maybe it's a low-level anxiety about finances, perhaps a dull resignation about a relationship.
And you follow the same route to work, you have the same predictable conversations, you listen to the same internal complaints.
And this just continues cycle after cycle, month after month, year after year. And as we mentioned, the scenery can change dramatically. You change jobs, you move house, you get married, you raise children.
These are monumental external shifts.
Huge shifts. But the essence, the internal experience, remains shockingly unchanged. It's the same reactions to stress, the same inner tension, the same fundamental life experience, just in a different setting.
You may have a nicer car, but you worry about paying for it in exactly the same way you used to worry about catching the bus.
That's a perfect way to put it. So why does this loop persist? The source suggests a fascinating and really crucial perspective. It is not a prison. It's not designed by some external jailer.
It's a learning system.
It's a learning system. Think of it like a school, but one based on integration, not just intellect. And the simple rule of this school is, until the required lesson is learned and fully integrated, the class repeats.
So we're bound not by external chains, but by our own internal, unlearned emotional and energetic lessons.
That's it. And this brings us to a crucial point about free will, because many listeners might feel they are constantly exercising their free will.
And in a way they are.
They are, to a degree. You absolutely possess free will, but it is a free will that operates strictly within the bounds of the program.
So you're free to choose where to live, what brand of coffee to buy, who to date tonight.
All of that. But all of these choices, regardless of how divergent they feel, they exist inside one single version of reality, one predetermined probability branch dictated by your underlying energy.
Okay, wait, I need to push back on that a little. If I decide to quit my stable, well-paying job and just go travel the world, that feels like a massive exercise of free will. Are you saying that choice is still somehow dictated by the program? Where does my agency actually lie?
That is a critical question, and the agency lies in recognizing the source of the choice.
The motivation behind it.
Yes. If you quit the job because you are acting out of fear, stress, and a desperate desire to escape, that is a programmatic choice. You're trying to use an external action to solve an internal problem.
And the program doesn't care if I'm on a beach in Thailand or in an office cubicle.
It doesn't care at all. As long as you carry that state of fear and escape with you, the new reality you find yourself in will simply replicate the feeling of the old one. Freedom isn't the choice of action, but the state from which the action arises.
Okay, that clarifies the constraint. So the limited nature of free will means we can move freely across the map, but we can't change the fundamental rules of the game itself.
Not unless we interrupt the core code.
Unless we interrupt the core code.
Precisely. As long as you play strictly by the rules that you haven't yet recognized as the program, the rules of anxiety, scarcity, defensiveness, you remain firmly inside the cycle.
You might achieve great success within the game, right? You can win the promotion, get the dream out.
It absolutely could. But you haven't achieved freedom from the game. The tension remains.
And this is the realization that begins to unlock the door. Most people are living their lives entirely on autopilot. They genuinely believe they're managing their lives, making sophisticated conscious decisions, that they're in control.
But this is, sadly, the most convincing illusion. When we trace the origin of our thoughts and actions, we find they are controlled by sophisticated, deeply ingrained programs.
Rigid habits, predictable emotional patterns.
Long-forgotten fears, and critically, desires that are not truly their own.
Let's spend a moment on those installed desires. When I look at my life and see my goals, I want to be financially secure, I want a loving family, I want to retire comfortably. Those seem like good, self-generated desires. How can I tell which ones were installed?
It requires a very deep, very honest self-inquiry. You have to ask yourself, if I achieve this goal, would I feel content or would I feel validated?
Ah, that's the distinction.
That is the key distinction. Many installed desires, the pursuit of certain luxury items, specific career titles, even specific types of relationships, are rooted in the need for external validation.
From parents, from culture.
From advertising that preys on a deep insecurity. The feeling of not being enough. If the desire is about proving your worth, it's a program running.
And on the other side of that coin, the fears that paralyze us. The fear of vulnerability in a relationship, the fear of failure to the point where we won't even try.
These were often recorded long ago, perhaps in childhood, perhaps in a past emotional trauma. They function now as defensive programs, running automatically in the background, like malware protecting a system that doesn't actually need protection anymore.
And until this entire programming structure is clearly seen, the circular walking will inevitably continue.
Because every action taken, every decision made, stems not from your authentic essence, but from the automatic repeating commands of the program. That is the definition of samsara. The repetitive loop of consciousness, right here, right now, every single day, fueled by choices we think we are making freely.
This realization leads us directly to the intimate mechanism of daily reassembly. If we're running a script, where and when does the operating system reload? The cycle of samsara doesn't just happen over decades. It happens every single night.
Every night, in a very real, quiet sense, you experience a small death.
And that's a reflective pause worth taking, isn't it? When you fall asleep, your intense, ordinary, daytime consciousness, it begins to fade away.
The focused connection between your body and your sense of identity loosens its grip. Your attention withdraws. It moves away from all the roles you play, the employee, the partner, the parent, away from the tasks, away from the complex history you maintained all day. Your attention turns inward.
So sleep is a small death, and conversely, morning is always a small, critical birth.
And when you wake up, you don't simply turn on like a light switch. You actively, energetically assemble yourself again.
It's a loading sequence.
Think of it like a meticulous, energetic loading sequence that happens in the subtle body before the mind even engages. Consciousness re-enters the physical body. Your vital energy aligns itself into the channels you've habitually used. And then the personality begins to activate.
Your name loads. Your history loads. Your role in society loads.
Your default state of anxiety loads. Everything loads back up.
This process defines the critical window of choice. And it happens in those initial hazy minutes of waking, that transitional period between the dream state and full waking consciousness.
This is the moment when you have the potential to assemble yourself differently. If the sequence is interrupted or consciously guided, you could genuinely choose another internal frequency, and by doing so, step onto another branch of reality.
But now, a question for you to consider. And let's allow a genuine, slow pause for the honest answer to surface.
What do most people do in these precious, pristine minutes when the hard drive is still pliable?
They grab their phone.
Immediately.
This action is the purest, most efficient form of automatic program loading possible. In that one moment, you instantly load yourself up with external stimuli, the judgmental opinions of others, the world's current crisis of the day, the manufactured fears.
The demands of external scheduling. And the consequence of this immediate external engagement is the closing of the window. The potential for a new assembly is lost.
The default template, the one that guarantees repetition and anxiety, it loads again efficiently before you've even put your feet on the floor.
And if this mechanism isn't recognized and interrupted, you are born into the same version of yourself, using the same internal script, year after predictable year, because you're loading the same internal operating system every single time.
That's a powerful and, frankly, alarming image. So if the phone is the problem, that immediate external stimulus, what is the practical alternative? If I only have, say, 60 seconds before the demands of the day crash in, what should I be doing instead of loading that program?
The key is to engage the internal system before the external system takes over. Instead of reaching out, you must reach in.
Okay.
And there are a few 60-second practices that work because they engage awareness and shift the energetic alignment. First, sensory grounding.
What does that mean?
Before you even move, just notice 3 things: the feeling of the sheet on your skin, the temperature of the air, and the sound of your own quiet breath. This anchors your attention in the present physical reality, not the planned reality of the day, and certainly not the programmed reality of the past.
That immediately interrupts the thought loops that try to kick in, like the stress about the 9 a.m. meeting or the argument from last night.
Exactly. The second technique is conscious intention setting. While you're still in bed, use the clarity of that preloaded mind to choose one core state for the day, not an action, but a state.
Give me an example.
Today, I choose to embody clarity. Or, today, I choose to respond with spaciousness. This overrides the default emotional tone and gives your subconscious a new operating instruction for the day.
So you are literally programming the desired frequency instead of just passively accepting the default one.
Precisely. And third, a mini breath alignment. If you only have 60 seconds, use that time for 3 deep breaths. But on the exhale, consciously visualize tension, anxiety, or resistance leaving the body. On the inhale, visualize presence, warmth, and calm entering.
It's a physical act.
It's a simple physical act that helps align your vital energy into the newly chosen state before the body fully engages. These practices shift the source of your energy from external demand to internal choice.
I understand the mechanism now. The way out is awareness, but specifically, it's awareness applied during the reloading process. It's about recognizing that we are assembling ourselves and then consciously choosing the components.
Yes. Not imagination, not wishful fantasy, simply honest awareness of where you are right now. And this honesty is the difficult step.
Why?
Because it's not awareness of where you want to be or where you think society says you should be. It is awareness of your actual, factual, internal, and external reality without judgment.
And this is exactly why most people struggle to achieve this honesty, isn't it? They describe themselves using ideals. I'm kind, I'm ambitious, I really want to change my life.
But reality tells a different, often contradictory story through their daily actions and reactions. Their chronic procrastination, their bursts of irritation, their deep-seated anxiety.
So true awareness is the deliberate act of seeing yourself without any of those self-protective filters.
It is the raw observation of facts, the emotional tension you carry in your jaw, the fear that drives your decisions, the resistance that makes change so difficult. There are no excuses in this observation.
And when this genuine, unfiltered seeing happens, something fundamental shifts.
You step out of the mechanical trance of autopilot, you take back manual control, and the grip of samsara instantly loosens because the underlying principle is this: what is seen can be changed.
But if the program remains unseen, masked by our ideals and excuses,
it remains in absolute control.
Let's move to the mechanism of tuning then. The multivariant nature of reality. We have to understand how that choice we make in the morning window translates into external events. Why is it that some people seem to naturally thrive, attracting opportunity and fulfillment, while others, with similar opportunities, struggle endlessly?
This question points toward the reality that exists beyond the singular programmed experience. Reality is not singular, it is multivariant. At every single moment, there are thousands of possible versions of what happens next waiting in the probability field, like parallel roads all leading out of this one moment.
And which one of those thousands of potential branches becomes real in your life?
It's not the one you consciously want with your logical, demanding mind. It is the one you are fundamentally tuned into with your deepest, sustained internal state. That state acts as a powerful, energetic magnet.
This is where the radio analogy is so perfect, but we need to unpack it properly. My consciousness acts as both a transmitter and a receiver.
Yes.
So if I'm broadcasting on the frequency of lack, the universe isn't going to suddenly deliver a winning lottery ticket.
Exactly. You receive the frequency you broadcast, whether that broadcast is conscious or, far more powerfully, subconscious. Let's look at the specific frequencies we broadcast unconsciously. Fear, for instance, is a powerful frequency.
And it doesn't just repel danger.
No, it actively attracts confirming events that validate the fear. If you walk into a networking event deeply fearing rejection, you are broadcasting that frequency, and you will filter reality to see and experience rejection even if it wasn't explicitly there.
And that leads to scarcity attracting scarcity. If my foundational belief, my state, is one of there is never enough, then even when I get a raise, I am immediately stressed about the next unexpected bill, thereby maintaining the scarcity frequency.
Correct. Or distrust, projected outward, inevitably attracts betrayal or situations where trust is broken because your internal antennae are constantly scanning for evidence that people are untrustworthy.
So you can stand there consciously proclaiming that you want abundance and love.
Striving to act in ways that should attract those things.
But reality doesn't respond to your conscious words or your superficial actions. It responds to your underlying state. If the underlying state is one of chronic insecurity, that is the frequency that reality tunes into and serves back to you.
And this, precisely, is where most people fail in their attempts to break the cycle. They recognize the outcome they don't want, the lack of success, the repetitive relationship problems, and they try to change it through action. They work harder, they try new strategies, they force new habits.
Wait, let's slow down here because this is a profound realization.
Action is not the cause of change. Action is merely a consequence.
Wait, isn't that a little defeatist?
Right.
If I just wait for my state to change, how does any actual progress happen? Where does discipline fit into this? If I want to start a business, I can't just sit on the couch and wait to feel successful.
That's the essential confusion. Discipline is absolutely required, but it must be applied at the right point in the sequence. If you apply discipline only to the action working long hours, forcing yourself to network, but the underlying state is one of self-hatred or fear of failure,
then the action becomes strained, inefficient, self-sabotaging.
Exactly. The program is still in charge, pushing you, not flowing through you. The true sequence of reality creation is hierarchical. First comes the state, the frequency you are broadcasting, the feeling tone of your being.
Then the state dictates the thoughts that are available to your conscious mind.
Yes. If you're in a state of flow, your thoughts are creative and solution-oriented. If you're in a state of fear, your thoughts are limited and defensive.
And only then the thoughts materialize into the inevitable actions. So if I try to start a diet from a state of self-hatred thinking, I need to fix this broken thing about me, my actions are doomed because the underlying frequency is rejection.
That is a perfect illustration. But if you start a diet from a state of self-care and respect thinking, I choose to nourish this body, the actions of cooking healthy meals flow almost effortlessly.
So if the fundamental state doesn't change, if the underlying frequency remains fixed on scarcity or fear, then no matter how dramatically you change the external action, the branch of reality simply cannot change.
The loop persists because you are carrying the core source code with you wherever you go. Discipline is essential, yes, but it must be the discipline of maintaining the desired state, not the discipline of forcing external action.
Okay, so if the state is the master key,
Yeah.
what shapes the state above all else? The answer is simple, but well, it's often misunderstood in its pure power. It's attention.
Attention is the pure, raw energy of consciousness. It is the life force itself. Where your attention goes, your vital energy flows. When your attention is scattered, pulled in 100 different directions by distractions, worries, and external stimuli, you become energetically weak, unable to sustain any coherent, high-frequency state.
But when attention is focused and consolidated,
It becomes intensely transformative. It's capable of changing your internal state instantly.
but this attention is constantly leaking, and most of us don't even realize the holes in the container.
Yeah.
We feel exhausted by 3 p.m. without having done anything truly meaningful. Our energy is just dissipating into the environment trying to manage all the leaks.
We must identify the 4 core leaks that drain the energy of attention. making it impossible to hold a coherent, high-frequency state for very long. If you want to raise your frequency, you first have to plug the hole in the tank.
Start with the first one, unfinished tasks. This is a daily burden for nearly everyone.
Every half-started project, every unopened email, every lingering commitment that hasn't been completed, these are small psychological drains. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect.
Which means?
Our minds continue to expend energy on tasks that were started but remain incomplete. They hold a fraction of your attention captive, constantly running in the background, consuming processing power and energy, making you feel perpetually behind, even when you're technically relaxing.
It's the energetic equivalent of having 50 browser tabs open on your computer. It just slows the whole system down.
Exactly. The second leak is a chaotic environment. A disorganized home, a cluttered workspace, a digital desktop full of unsorted files. These environments are physical, tangible representations of scattered attention,
The external clutter mirrors and then reinforces the internal clutter.
making it impossible to achieve a state of inner calm necessary for holding a stable frequency. If your energy is constantly trying to mentally navigate clutter, it cannot be focused on creation.
The third leak is maybe the most insidious because it feels necessary. It's our emotional reactions.
When you react immediately and automatically to external events, a perceived slight from a colleague, a piece of bad news, sudden traffic, you hemorrhage energy violently. This is the program taking over, forcing an adrenaline spike and consuming valuable resources.
And it happens in milliseconds.
In milliseconds. It guarantees that your state drops immediately from spacious presence to low reactive stress, effectively neutralizing any positive work you did in that morning window.
The moment I jump into a road rage incident, I have just used the fuel I needed later to be patient with my children.
Precisely. And the fourth leak, toxic interactions. Sustaining relationships or engaging with people who consistently drain your emotional reserve, whether through perpetual negativity, demanding behavior, or unnecessary conflict.
It requires constant energetic defense and boundary management.
And it leaves you depleted. Trying to hold a new positive frequency while maintaining these leaks is literally like trying to fill a high-pressure tank with holes. You can pour energy in all day, but the internal pressure, the state, will never stabilize.
So to master the state, you seal those leaks, and then you deploy attention through the mechanism of the observer. This is where true internal freedom emerges from the repetition.
When you feel your state drop, when anxiety arises, when tension grips your body, when an old fear surfaces, and you successfully observe it, you have fundamentally changed your relationship with the program. You are no longer inside it struggling. You are viewing it from a higher perspective. You are above it.
Okay, when you say observe it, how do I do that practically? I often feel like I am the anxiety, especially when it's intense. What is the technique for separating the I from the feeling?
The technique is threefold, and it must begin with the body, not the mind. First, locate the sensation. Where is the tension? Is it in your stomach, your chest, your jaw? Give it a physical address. Second, name it without judgment. Say internally, I am observing tension in my chest. By naming it, you acknowledge its presence, but you prevent identification. And third, remind yourself, this is a program running in me, not me.
The person observing the tension is not the tension itself.
That observer is the true self, the manual operator. And this is the critical principle. The unconscious program, the script of samsara, can only control you when you are totally identified with it. When you become the fear, you are trapped by it.
When you become the tension, you're forced to act out of it. But observation is immediate internal freedom from the program's grip. The moment you say, I see that anxiety surfacing, that I that is speaking is separate from the anxiety.
That I is the true self, the manual operator, who is now free to choose a response that comes from a higher state rather than a reactive script.
And if we look even deeper, there's one final essential secret to accelerating this process of breaking the cycle.
It is accessing the state of the child.
The child state. I worry that sounds irresponsible or immature to people dealing with adult burdens like mortgages and careers.
That is the common resistance, and we must be very clear. This is not childishness. It is not immaturity or irresponsibility. It is the state of genuine, open presence and alignment. It is the original, unstained frequency of the self.
What are the qualities of that state?
The qualities are curiosity, ultimate flexibility, and an inherent spirit of play in how one engages with life.
So it's about shifting the internal stance toward effort.
Exactly. Think about the internal stance of a child who is truly exploring. They are not obsessed with the ultimate outcome, which is where adult anxiety lives. They are not afraid to simply try something new, even if they fail spectacularly.
And crucially, they aren't ashamed of making a mistake. A mistake is just new data.
It's new data that informs the next action. It prompts an immediate pivot. An adult programmed by fear sees mistakes as evidence of failure. A child sees mistakes as evidence of exploration.
This shift in perception eliminates the paralysis that the fear of failure causes. If I can approach my difficult meeting or new business venture with curiosity, rather than a desperate need for a specific, validated outcome.
You are engaging life from a completely different frequency. This state, the child state, is so powerful because it restores your original frequency, the clean, resonant frequency you held before the program hardened around you, before the fears were recorded, and before the external expectations took root.
And because you're not fighting life, because you're exploring it with curiosity and flexibility, rather than fighting to control a specific result change, happens exponentially faster in this state.
Resistance drops away. The flow of reality can reorganize itself effortlessly around this restored natural frequency. You are inviting the multivariant world to serve you the best possible branch.
This brings us to our final synthesis. The fundamental understanding, the essential takeaway from this deep dive, is that you were never meant to escape life or reject the world you're currently in.
No.
You were meant to live it consciously, with awareness in every moment.
The path of freedom is the path of balance. It is awareness in action, maintaining that observer state while fully engaging with the material world. It is presence in matter, being fully here, fully embodied, and fully in manual control of your own inner frequency.
And this leads to the most liberating realization of all, the branch of reality where your life flows naturally, where things feel effortless and aligned, where you are truly living your own essence. That branch already exists.
It already exists. It is not something you must laboriously create out of nothing by forcing hard actions.
Your task, therefore, is not creation, but reception.
You do not need to invent the perfect life. You need to tune into it. You must adjust your state, seal the energetic leaks, maintain the inner observer, and then hold that tuning, that consistent high vibrational frequency long enough for the surrounding reality to fully reorganize itself around your new stable state.
And that requires the discipline of attention, not the discipline of external force.
Yeah.
The choice to begin this process, the choice to seize that critical window in the morning and take manual control of the program, is available to you right now. The script is waiting for a rewrite.
And once you have seen the invisible mechanism that controls the scripts of daily repetition, it cannot be unseen. Once that knowledge is gained and you recognize the signs of the program loading, well, ignorance becomes a deliberate choice. The resignation of the past becomes impossible.
Remembering has already begun.